but I'd like to welcome to the stage two gentlemen that have some really interesting things to share with us. First, I have Mr. Shawn Parker from Dublin GOP. And then also Mr. Mike Collins. Our first speaker, as you may have heard, comes from Dublin, Ohio. And I'm going to call him over here to the microphone and share something about a great story he has, a new campaign he is running. And I think all of us should pay attention because I think we should be doing it up here as well. Shawn, come on over.
Thank you very much. It'd be great to have you. I'll take a look at what we're doing. If you have your phones out, I would ask you to basically check out, the website's not up and running yet, but it's gotfreedom.live, L-I-V-E. And what we're doing is we're a grassroots club like yourselves. We've actually expanded in Central Ohio to 18 clubs, as far west as Xenia, as far north as Knox County. And we're all going to start working together, because when we want to do things to make things happen, that's going to happen only by empowering people to step up, come to events, and recognize that in your neighborhood, it's how things get done. We have to take politics back, and we have to make it real to you in a local way. And that's what we're all about. So one of the things that we have is, as we're getting ready to head into the election cycle, we don't want to compete with the people that are running for office. Those are the people that tell us they're the measure of how successful we are, whether they get elected or don't. And if you haven't heard, Franklin County, we haven't been doing very well lately. So we are basically taking a look and we're saying, how do we get messaging back into the county? We've had people come to our meetings, and they come from the inner city. They stand up, they point at us, and they say, where have you gone? Why did you people leave us? What is happening? And I would suspect in inner city, Cuyahoga County, Cleveland, Warrensville Heights, the same thing happens. So we have to restore a conversation. We can't do it with a local paper. We can't do it with the news media. So we're buying billboards. The billboards, will drive them here to the website, Got Freedom. Why freedom? It's one word they can't use. The Democrats, stay away from it. Like vampires, stay away from the light. Freedom is our word. It's a Republican word. They go to a website. We have 5,000 stake signs that are going to be in the yards everywhere. And we want people to see, just like the Dems have done to us, that we are about truth. We are about their futures, that we actually have the answers. We're going to use the analytics so we can study the urban marketplace. We will share it with Cuyahoga, Hamilton, Lucas County, and we want to understand where we're not delivering the message properly, where we're not conveying that communication so that the moderates can come back to us. The conservative Democrats want to be here. They don't feel that we have been open enough and welcoming enough. That ends with this. So you'll see more of it. We hope that you can partake in it, support us, pray for us. We need the prayers.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Shannon. Good afternoon. I'm Mike Collins, and I have a speech for you, but I wanted to make sure y'all know I am from Georgia. My accent, y'all might thought I was from New York, but just a little bit south there in God's country. I've got a speech, and before I give it, though, I just want to give a report from what I would say is rural Georgia, where I live, and small towns across our state. If you thought that 2007 to 2009, that the Tea Party Patriots made a difference, brother, you ain't seen nothing yet. This thing is becoming a tsunami of people, grassroots people across this country and across the state of Georgia who are fed up, who are ticked off, who are mad at what's been going on. You are going to see a wave of good people come out and vote, and we're going to turn this thing around. I heard your questions over there to the first young man that's running, and I could have closed my eyes and heard those same questions in Georgia. Now, we got a few other slight absentee ballot problems down there, but the basic questions are the same. Our freedom. The basic questions are all the same, whether it's Constitution or guns, no matter what it is. And when you look at grassroots and patriots, they get the decision on the primary candidate. And that's the candidate you're going to take into the fall and you're going to whip up on the Democrats with. Rush Limbaugh, and I heard his name referenced, and it made me think of him. I've been listening to that fella. It's unfortunate that he passed away, but he used to always say, and it's true, Democrats, you can't compromise with Democrats. You got to defeat them and take them out. That's the way you win. So let's start over real quick. I don't know how much time I had, but I'll admit I'm the son of a politician and we're in the trucking business, so we like to talk. It's a good thing I didn't marry a Southern Baptist. I really would talk. Wait a minute, she is Southern Baptist. Y'all, my name is Mike Collins. I live and work in a small rural town in Georgia. And my wife, Leanne, and I, we've been married 30 years and busy that 30 plus years, raising a family and running a small business, paying taxes, and like many of you, just worried about the future of our country. And I thought I'd come up here to tell you that we're just like you, because like you, I am so sick of our government intrusion into our lives, all the way back to this Obamacare mess in our health care, whether it be the cancel culture we got going on, the mega business woke society, our transgenderism that they're teaching our kids in school, our Constitution that's just being trampled and run over. Man, our Constitution's not negotiable. These crazy open borders that we have now where we didn't finish the wall, that all they're doing is allowing illegal aliens in so that we can create a new class of voter. You know, this continuous sending our military out to fight these endless wars with no end game, no end in sight, only to have our veterans come home and not be taken care of. And that's not right. I'm also sick of being told where I can go, when I can go, what I got to wear when I go there. And Lord help, don't go to church. And just like you, I honestly believe Donald Trump was the best president in my lifetime. See, Donald Trump is an outsider. He's a businessman. He's not a career politician. He's someone that actually loves this country. He loves what it stands for. He understands and stands up for our constitutional rights. He also understands that this is a nation of laws, not a nation of no-go zones and mob rule. He also has a profound respect for our law enforcement and our military. You know, that's people out there standing up that's keeping us free and serving and protecting us in our communities. And also, like you, I know Congress has too many elected officials that fall into the following categories. You got lawyers up there. You got career politicians up there. They say that it wasn't made for a career. It wasn't supposed to be a career. And then you got a bunch of crazy, left-wing, lunatic liberals, neo-Marxists. Y'all, we need more God-fearing Christians that are conservative, small business folks to go to Washington. I'm gonna give you a news flash that my dad always told me. He said, son, you can have God without government, but you can't have government without God. That's worth repeating. You can have God without government, but you can't have a government without God. You also cannot run that government up there off the seat of your britches with an open checkbook. It won't work. See, if you have people up there that have made their living paying taxes, trying to get through, they understand what it means to pay taxes. And they also see what it is when your taxes are wasted. So what do we need to do? We need to stop this needless spending that we've got going on. Pass us a balanced budget amendment. Bring our military home. And I'll tell you a good one. Let's fund the police and defund the dadblame government. Set term limits. Secure the border. Get out of my health care and leave my Constitution alone. Y'all, we're with you, Republican patriots of Ohio. We've got your back. We got your back down in Georgia. Good, good. I'm going to tell you something. That even comes to when it calls to pointing out some of these squishy rhino Republicans that we got. Liz Cheney, Gonzalez, we need to fix that. Good. Come on back. We need your sales tax money. On y'all's way through to Florida now, y'all stop. We need all we need. No. There was an old car dealer up there in North Georgia, and he always had a saying, and I kind of stole it from him. I hate to say that. But Ohio, we love you, and we need you. One last thing to our fellow Republican patriots in Washington fighting. Help is on the way.
You know, I asked Mike earlier today, and I said, hey, what's a guy like from Georgia coming up here? He wanted to talk to us. He said, you know what? This fight's no longer just in my backyard. This fight's all across this nation. And thank you. Thank you for coming up here and making your voice heard. We really appreciate it. We're going to take a couple questions while everyone's finishing up here, but I wanted to just do one thing. Let me see a show of hands in the crowd. Who here has been to their local GOP meeting in the last few months? Let me see a show of hands. Now, that is what we need. There are so many of us that yell at the TV. Heck, we might be yelling at Fox News these days too, right? Am I right? We spent a little time. I talked to a reporter earlier, and they said a comment about that. I said, I'll tell you what, this crowd's probably not watching Fox News as much as they used to, right? Am I right? There's a shortage of actual truth out there. There's a short of real information. We're finding it. Everyone has a chance to be heard, but it's all too often that censorship is the way now. Yeah. Those local organizations, like Strongsville GOP, we're just a small city organization. Try to do a few things to make everyone a little energized, but I know that Shawn has an awesome organization down in Dublin, and we want to hear a little bit more about that. But this is where we get our neighbors involved. This is where we get them engaged. I see a lot of you in this room that I've seen and we've been in the trenches with for different campaigns and different efforts. And it's not just about a candidate. We've talked to a lot of candidates today, but I'm sincere that we have opportunities to take on big issues. We talked about critical race theory, right? We talked about the initiative that we have to review our curriculum. That only happens when you stand up and say, sure, I'll read that textbook for that third grader to make sure that we're not inserting these unbelievable lies that the New York Times is putting into our textbooks. Yep, we need to make sure of that, and that's where it starts. And I really encourage everyone to get involved. If you don't know where your local group is, you all know how to get a hold of us. We'll tell you. We'll get you involved. We'll get you engaged. Shawn, before we get off stage, we've got only a couple more minutes before our next speaker comes up. I would love to hear from you because you have done something that is really unique that I think everyone could really learn about, and that is you've helped start a lot of clubs around the region of Columbus area. And beyond, right?
Yep, Absolutely.
If somebody is in this room right now and they say, hey, I live in some area around Cleveland area and there's no active club and there's no active group in my area, what can I do? What do you tell them?
Give me a call. I'm going to give you my email address. They're going to publish it. Okay. You can go to dublingop.org. You can go to parker.92@osu.edu. And no, I don't teach there because I'm not a liberal. Still like the football a little bit.
Maybe you should.
But here's the thing. One thing I want to mention, clubs, we have started 18 clubs. We have a Back the Blue club that came online two months ago. It's all police officers. Clubs, 800 members in 60 days. Our law enforcement needs your support. We did a presentation Wednesday to the FOP in Central Ohio, and I looked around the room. My father was a police officer. My father fought in the riots in the 1960s. We stayed up at night praying. My mom kept us up till he came home safe. And I looked at those police officers and police women, their families, and I'm thinking about that. We have to realize about what law and order is about. We have to give them our support. We need a police club so that they have a place other than the FOP. Their unions are being attacked. Their organizations are being attacked. Cancel culture is very real. So clubs do not have to be geographic. We always think that Strongsville, Dublin, Worthington, a club can be a group of people that play cards together. Do not overthink this for 1 minute. Underthink it. If there are a few of you that can get together and you have a commonality about wanting to make sure that conservatism is alive, you have a club. You already have it. But what we can do is we can help you enrich your club. We can help you find the people that will run for your school board. I was in meetings yesterday trying to get people at some of our smaller suburbs the courage to run because it's a scary thing. These candidates need our support. We also have the ability to get you speakers. If you want to have someone come and talk to your group of 5 people, your club, they start small, they get bigger. And we will help you be successful because the movement of conservatism can no longer be stopped. We can't allow it to happen. You're sitting out here, there's a club, I bet you there's 50 clubs that could be started out here and they're just looking for someone to say, you know what, I'm going to open my home to a few people. Or we're going to meet up at the local tavern and we're going to have a couple of beers because we do it anyway. And instead of complaining at the TV, you can actually form a small group. If your group gets big, people get nervous. They're like, well, we're going to start taking money in. We're going to help you through that. We're putting the structure together so you can become as big and as strong and that we can give it back to the liberals and stop them in their tracks because they've been beating us in the urban marketplaces in particular. That day is over. No more. We need you to help us do this.
Looks like we have a question there, but before I do it, you just gave me a great transition. Those of us who've been to a Strongsville GOP event before, who has been to one of our beer caucuses before? That's right, I see you. Dan, I've definitely seen you at one of those before, excellent.
What's the next date?
Yeah. We have a small get-together, a few friends after this. Maybe some special people will show up. A place called the Brew Garden, which is right down the street. If you need to know where it is, look it up on your phone. If not, Dan will show you where it is. You follow him there. Brew Garden's been a great host for many of our events, and I'll tell you what, they really got attacked when we did an event there, and we try to help them out. So if you're able to make it, we'll be up there after we conclude here today. And it looks like we have a question back at in the audience. A couple of them.
So forgive me if my voice cracks.
Me too.
I was at one of your Dublin Republican clubs when Mike DeWine spoke. And at that time, I understand that he probably had, requests he wouldn't take any spontaneous questions. And the questions that he did approve, the person who asked them wasn't even allowed to ask them during the Zoom meeting. I hear you talking about a new movement, Republican Party, we have to push back, How do we push back if we continue to allow people like Mike DeWine to dictate to we the people how we're supposed to answer questions? I was really bummed out about that when I came.
Nope. First of all, thanks for coming because it's very important that we fill rooms up. That was the first, this was a very challenging scenario, and I'll give you a little explanation. We were called by Governor DeWine's office. We're booked out until the end of July right now with speakers, which is great. We'll work people in where we can get them. Our Dublin club, we generally will put 100 to 200 people in the room every Monday night, 5:30 p.m., place called the Bogey Inn. But we got a call from the governor's office. It was the first time the governor was going to speak to a group since COVID started, about 4 weeks ago. You saw him on TV in the news conferences on a continual basis, giving the singular message forward. And we were then told that he would only come in, I'm sorry? We were then told that we could not have questions. And I said, we have to have questions. The people that come to our club the week before, we will take the questions from the week before, and then we'll try to work questions in that night. This is the tricky part, because some politicians are very guarded for certain reasons. It's very important that we have all views in. Our club tends to be a lot more on the conservative side, but we're in Franklin County, and we are trying to appeal to all people conservative, all people Republican. So a club does not necessarily have to be a far-right club. It has to be a Republican club. What I say that a club is not is our club is, you cannot be communist, you can't be a socialist, and you can't be a Democrat to be a club member. We stop there. But we do need to have the ideas, because when the central committees vote on who they're going to endorse, it's our job to get out there and win that. Because if we had someone else in those chairs, in that governor's seat, I can't imagine how much worse it would be. That's the tricky part. But your clubs, with the way that we structure clubs, is we do not give you policy. The policy is the club. What we do is we give you an organizational model to succeed with. We will say, meet twice a month. Make sure your club is fun. Make sure your club knows how to get a hold of the candidates to have them come and talk to them. When they come to talk to your club, that gives you the opportunity to start influencing them. And they listen very intently, because they're talking to the church when they're showing up at your events. And they want to read you, they want to understand what's going on. We have Joe Blystone, who's a speaker later today, speaking Monday night. It's very important that we have diversity of thought, that we understand where all the Republican movements are coming from. But we also understand one very, very basic thing. It comes from, our belief system comes from the belief in God, truth, freedom, and the individual. And that's where we always revert back to. So when I hear a speaker that's starting to move out there a little bit, I always ask myself the question, where are they on the spectrum of truth? Because that's what Republicans believe. It is not what the other people believe. That's what makes us superior and different.
Great. One more question?
Stop. Yes, I'm Joyce Cornett. I had the occasion to have my granddaughter in October, and we watched a lot of MTV. And these people just blasted these kids with ads for the Democrats. Are we doing anything to try and get some of these kids back? Because that's our future.
Mike,
and these kids are being sold down the swamp.
Thank you, Joyce. You have to think about this on a continual basis. Before I really started working with the clubs, roughly 3 years ago, I was running a very large Boy Scout organization. After work, I have a real estate company, and I'm using a lot of the same things that we use in that regard. It's how do we communicate with people who don't understand? How do we communicate and message with people who are their minds aren't developed, or their minds are very confused? We live in a world of chaos and confusion. We looked on the campaign trail last cycle. The Democrats came out, and it's very slick and subtle the way they do it. They came out with a word that you've probably all heard called equity. Okay, has everybody heard that? It's no mistake. Every candidate that got up started their speech, and they started off with the word equity. And I sat there and I listened. My first career was in marketing for Nestle Foods and Eastman Kodak. And I listened for these cues and these message and the way that they embed. And there's a thing called normalcy bias. It gets a little fuzzy out there. But what they're doing is they're introducing concepts and words, and they are making you believe that they are true when they are the furthest thing from the truth to control what you believe.
1984.
So the word equity is a dangerous word. it sounds soft. It sounds nice. Inclusion, diversity. These are words that they have used, okay? If you're religious, the book of John says that it began with the word, okay? They took the word, they're taking the words and they're redefining what words mean. They took the word marriage. We can't let them have any more words. They will never get to the word freedom until all else is lost.
That's right.
So we're starting, we said we need to have a word to rally around and to bring people together. And it's a word that is our word, so they can't have it. And
Thanks,
we
Tom.
start with that.
Mike, do you want to?
Am I on? Okay, I want to make sure I was on. Y'all, I can't sit down and talk. I don't know. It's, if I start swinging arms, look out. I tell you where it starts. Everything starts at home, for one thing. I've got a 23-year-old daughter, and when she was 16, I hope there's no law enforcement, but I bought her a pistol. She wouldn't touch that gun. She went off to college, liberal school, and she now totes that gun. She's 23 years old, but we stayed with her and we discussed things and we kept talking to her and talking to her. And now I'd say she's probably the most conservative person that there is in Nashville, Tennessee. I wish she'd come back to Georgia, but that's okay. But the other thing I would say is we got to get education back down to a local level. You got the federal government dictating how we educate these children. Of course, they only provide about 10% of the funds, and the rest of it they mandate. But we got to get them out of our education of our kids. And then you'll see a lot of this mess start to turn around. So that's where I would start. I would press anybody, and stay with your local election or your local school boards. Make sure you put the right people in those positions too. And while I'm on election boards, I know this didn't answer your question. I'm going to tell you something. That's an important part. You need the right folks in these election boards. That's how we do in Georgia. We elect election boards. And you need the right folks in there. Because there's sometimes that, well, you just saw it. We lost a great senator in Georgia, David Perdue.
Oh, yeah.
Great small businessman. And we don't need that to keep happening. And we need to examine every part of this thing.
Yep. Thank you, Mike. Last question here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you both for being here. I belong to the Lorain County Totally Engaged Americans conservative organization. And
Great, thank you.
Last week in a meeting, we had a gentleman from the Beechwood City Schools talking about comprehensive sex education in the middle schools. And I wondered if you, the gentleman on the left, I'm sorry, I forget your name, if you knew what was going on in Franklin County, because they directed us to a video done by two fathers in Franklin County talking about this, and it was totally alarming.
It's an important part, and it's the reason we are doing exactly what we are doing. We are forming local clubs, local influence on local politicians, and your school boards are ground zero of attack. I often say that the way our country was designed, we are 2 generations away from being a monarchy, a dictatorship, anything else. Right now, we're in red alert. We are 1 generation away. The school boards are the utmost importance. When I looked and I contemplated and prayed about where I can make a difference in what I'm going to do to come out and try to talk a little bit. And I'm telling you folks, 3 years ago I would never come near this stage. But I asked myself the question, am I going to go to sleep at night leaving the world this horribly poorly off? And it wasn't the fact that we didn't have a great president. We had the best president that we had in my lifetime. But I saw it coming from the inside. It was coming at the school boards, it was coming at the village councils, it was coming at the lowest levels, and then they're getting the kids' minds. And where we make a difference, where each one of us can do something, it's in your local community, and start with the people on your street, your neighborhood homeowners association. Figure out who those other people that are like-minded are. I promise you, people are hiding in their homes right now saying, how do I get involved? If you brought a friend here today, that's an awesome thing. Start bringing a friend. Start encouraging someone to come with you. They'll be reticent, they'll be reluctant, they'll say, well, I don't know about that stuff. but they do. Deep down, you're going to encounter people that are the next great leaders. That young man that got on the stage earlier and spoke, 25 years old, holy cow. I mean, his parents need congratulated because that didn't happen accidentally. This is the kind of stuff that you are the stewards of. You, when you go home, are the answer that we need, that we collectively need. We're building the framework, and we've already had dialogue because we're starting to take in enough money that we have to start moving into a political action committee status. And we can help make sure that nobody gets in trouble, that your events are successful. We're here to back you up, and it's fun. It's fun because you're with people. When I walked in this room, I looked around and I'm like, I can breathe in here. These people are okay. I feel like I'm home and I'm in Cleveland. Strongsville.
That's right. That's right. Well, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. And thank you, Shawn and Mike, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Keep on.